Hello, Matt Singers here. In this video, I will go through some of the challenges that I see SEO agency business owners go through time and time again. So the first one, I want to look at a couple of scenarios. There's a lot of small agencies out there who try to manage everything by themselves from day one. Now, one of the big things about SEO is it's a lot and it's complicated, right? So delivering SEO on its own is generally something in most cases that takes a lot of time and effort. Now, I have another video on how to niche down, so you can check that out. I'll put that in the comments as well. But besides niching down, one of the big things is around fulfillment. And what I see SEO agencies do again and again, and this is very prevalent because many SEOs are very detail oriented. They want to know everything. They want to do everything themselves. But one of the hardest things for most of the agencies is trying to deliver everything themselves. They're trying to be an expert at technical SEO. They're trying to be an expert at on-page. They're trying to be an expert at link building, etc. So there's a couple of routes you can go down. If you're just starting out, brand new agency, one of the things you could focus on is literally letting other people do the work. And with the work, I mean everything. So literally white label the work. The hardest job in SEO and what generally takes the most time is setting up good marketing acquisition channels and setting up good sales based on the back of that, right? So acquiring customers is the most difficult, but it is typically also where most of the money is made. So when you go around and talk with many SEOs, a lot of people are willing to deliver great service at a relatively low cost. So if you're just starting out an agency, even though you might be pretty decent as an SEO, a great strategy to use in the beginning is simply focusing on building up your marketing and your sales. If you do this, if you get to learn to sell well, and close clients and put up good funnels, you can get other people to fulfill the work, which means you can make pretty good money from day one without having a ton of deliverables. So one of the big things that happens again and again is that agency owners are getting a couple clients and then they're so busy delivering that they stop sales and marketing because it's taking so much time and effort to deliver the actual work. But if you're getting other people to do that part of the work, especially in the initial stage, what happens is you can focus on really honing in on your sales and marketing and making sure you're really building up solid systems so that you can really bring a lot of clients on board. Now, as you suddenly have a bunch of clients, you can then start taking some of the work into your business if you feel the partners you're working with are not always exactly what you want. Right now, I know very successful people that have kept just selling. And very often what happens is they sell a solution where they charge a customer $2,000, $3,000 a month. And they typically find an agency that can do the work at half the price. So that means by just doing the sales and keeping the customer contact, they can fundamentally get half of the money from the customer on a monthly basis. And again, SEO is the biggest hurdle for most agencies out there. And a lot of the time it's because they're not spending the time and the effort in learning it, getting good at it, right? They always, as soon as they have the chance to do SEO, they jump back and do the actual work. So that's a starting point, right? So focus on your sales and marketing, particularly in your early days, but really at any point in your agency. Here's a big kicker. If you suddenly have way too many leads and too many people who want to work with you, that's a very simple solution, which is increase your prices. Even if you're already running an agency that's doing really well, I see agencies all the time stopping their marketing or scaling back on things because they have enough clients. But really what you want to do is you want to always look at growing and scaling your sales and marketing. And what you want to do is when you have too many leads or too many people want to do business with you, you want to increase your prices because generally delivering work at a higher cost is easier. Again, it's fundamentally easier to manage one client that pay you 3K a month versus 3 clients that pay you 1K each a month, right? So less clients that pay more is everything else being equal better, right? Now, also the quality of clients tend to increase when you're increasing your costs. So you tend to get better and better quality clients that are more willing to invest. Typically in the beginning, when you're charging very low, you tend to work with people who often don't have a lot of money, and they're very hesitant to invest, and they're very likely to actually stop the work again if they don't see results immediately. So doing that can be super, super helpful. Now, as you go through, I really recommend starting looking at doing things step by step. So if you realize you have a big business, you want to start doing some of this SEO work yourself, is do it in clusters. Don't just go in and do everything yourself from day one. Again, this is harder. So therefore, you want to look at what are the processes that maybe is the most complex, or what are the processes that you feel is the easiest to solve, or what are the processes that can be solved most cost effectively. Now, often with many customers, the biggest sort of hurdle when you're outsourcing, particularly if it's not a sort of full done for you service that's doing the white labeling, is that the content area, right? So content is often an area that have the biggest sort of benefit to do in-house, because you probably know your client slightly better, and your team can get to know the client slightly better versus if it's an agency that's doing this in large scale, right? So content is often the area to start at. Now, to some degree, it also comes down to your skills. It comes down to the potential staff you're hiring or looking at hiring. Sometimes technical SEO can also be super valuable to start with. But what I tend to do is look at what are the simplest processes to keep away. What are the simplest processes to stay away from? So typical all external work. So that could be things like citation, things like social media, things like link building. These are often the things that I see agencies benefit from bringing in-house last, because those are generally services that are relatively easy to buy externally. Now, a lot of the time people look at prices, and so link building is a good example. So they'll look at a link building agency and say, oh, this agency is charging $200 for this particular link. If I did this myself and I did the outreach, I could buy it for $100. And to an extent, that's correct. And you can probably save some money with it. The big thing that people will look is it's not just about sending an email and getting a link. Like doing large scale outreach is very complex. There's a lot of email systems. There's a lot of email setup. There's a lot of copywriting with email. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of emails where you get 0 responses. So the whole thing is, when you look at the different verticals, when you look at something like link building, it's not just the cost of a link per se. It is the cost of the whole package. Social media in a similar light, right? Just putting a post on social media is maybe not the most difficult, but actually finding people who know what they're doing can be quite hard, particularly if you're working with customers in different niches. What you post on a social media for a restaurant might be very different than what you're posting for social media on a carpenter's website, right? So again, if you can find people that know what they're doing and actually have some kind of formula for certain social media verticals, you often get significantly better results quickly, right? So I tend to recommend really starting with the content piece and the things that are most unique to your clients, right? And that's typically the first step. Now, again, build out processes. If you want to scale, if you want to grow, don't just hire people and then individually train them and make sure they do what they're doing. Build out good processes that matches a good workflow for your team that is consistent. Your goal is, anytime you start doing something by yourself, you want to make absolutely sure that it can run without you. So when you're going through this content, as an example, you want to make sure the whole process is set up and flows without having to have your interference on a consistent basis, right? And a lot of time that's about simplifying. It's about having good processes around content briefs. It is about having good systems about how do you get the content done. Doesn't matter if that's AI rewritten or custom-made content. Either of those, it's all about having great systems. So as you go through your business, as you grow and scale, you can take more and more in-house. There's often things that you realize might not make sense. So I know a lot of people with very large agencies that still get citations done externally. And sometimes you can also supplement. So if you have 1 or 2 writers in-house, for example, you can also have third parties that you're working with if you have too much, right? But if you have good processes, the ability to scale up, the ability to even hire someone else part-time and really get them from zero to delivery fast is pretty simple and pretty quick if you have great processes and if you have good workflows for how to deliver high quality work. And that doesn't matter if you're talking about technical SEO, content, or link building, or whichever, right? So generally, that's sort of the strength, or that's the way I see going from strength to strength in an agency and how to do that the best. Please like and subscribe if you felt this was helpful.